So, Mr. Tabor, I want you to tell me a bit more about this, about your kidney cancer. Because the questions that I've shown you, which are these questions are pretty general. I just want you to talk to me about the details, the very small details that are probably the most interesting part. So could you please tell me about it?
Sure. It all started when I had a severe abdominal pain. I went to one of the after-hours med clinics, and the doctors examined me and poked around and decided to do an x-ray. And after I had the x-ray, the doctor came back in and said, I see something on the film that I don't like. I want you to go to the hospital and have a CAT scan tonight. So that got me a little concerned, because why couldn't it wait until tomorrow? So I went to the hospital and went to the emergency room, and they admitted me, and I had to get examined and go through all of that, and blood work and the whole work. So then about midnight they did a CAT scan, which doesn't take very long. And then about 2 o'clock in the morning, the emergency room doctor came in and said, I know this isn't what you want to hear at 2:30 in the morning, but you have cancer.
Uh-oh.
So I was a little shocked, and my wife was with me, and she was a little upset too.
I bet she was.
So then he said, but it doesn't look like it's spread to any of your lymph nodes or anything. It looks fairly well contained. So we're going to go ahead and admit you. And so they took me to a room, and the next day I had a couple of more tests run, and they decided they were going to do surgery the next day if they could get the team together for a Sunday surgery.
Okay.
And they couldn't. So then they sent me home. They said we need to do some more tests.
Uh-oh.
So I had CAT scans, I had MRIs, I had ultrasounds over about a 3-month period, and every single test was the same thing.
Yeah.
You have 2 tumors on your right kidney.
Both of them?
One of them is fairly symmetrical, and that usually indicates a non-malignant cyst. And the other one was all gnarly, and that usually means a malignant cyst. And it was about 13 centimeters, which is about this big.
Wow, that's pretty large.
So I had a pretty large tumor on my kidney.
That's like longer than your entire kidney, probably.
Oh yeah,
that's
considerably
bigger than
larger. And then it was elongated, and it was attached to my pancreas and to my lung.
Wow. That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. The surgery took about somewhere between 6 and 7 hours, and I have about a 14-inch incision where they took the
cut you.
It's called a radical nephrectomy.
Interesting. Oh yes, I've heard about that in my research. It's when they remove part, or they do that when it's not safe to take out your the entire surrounding tissues of the kidney, but it's not safe enough to take a portion of it out, because it could still spread or it could still be dormant. So they did the middleman of doing that.
Well, they did this is the most severe. This is the radical nephrectomy, and it's an incision from about the side of your torso all the way around to your spine almost.
Really?
Yes.
So wow.
Yeah, it's a long cut. And anyway, the operation was a success.
They removed it?
They removed the kidney and both of the tumors. They nicked, when they were removing it where it was attached to my lung, they nicked my lung, and one lung collapsed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
Kind of
another complication.
Another little complication.
What do you mean it collapsed? You mean?
The air went out of it.
Wow, like a balloon?
Like a balloon, exactly.
Wow. Doctors must have a lot of fun, huh?
And they also, in getting it out, they fractured one of my ribs.
Oh.
It was a battle.
Well, it looks like they weren't too careful, huh?
No, they were careful.
I know they were careful, but your tumor was
like... It was just attached well.
Yeah.
I had 2 surgeons, and like I said, it took about 6.5 hours. So.
2 surgeons? Oh, I thought you said a group of surgeons. I thought you meant like, I don't know, 5 of them.
Well, there were 2 surgeons. I mean, there were all kinds of nurses and things attending, and then you've got the anesthesiologist
and
things like that.
They don't want you to feel it, do you?
2 sets of hands inside of you is enough. So what else do you want to know?
Well, is that all? I just wanted to know what, basically, okay, so you talked about what during it. How about you talk a little bit about before and after you got it?
Well, before, like I said, I had no symptoms.
So you're just a perfectly healthy man.
Seemed to be. Had a physical every year. Everything seemed to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
And if it hadn't been for the pain, I probably would not have known about it until it was a stage 2 cancer.
Stage 2? Oh, stage 2.
And then it would have probably progressed to stage 4 before I had any symptoms. Mm-hmm. And as we discussed earlier,
stage 4 is pretty serious. It gets your other organs.
That's usually
when it starts getting bad.
Pretty short period of time.
6 months.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. Well...
The other thing that's kind of interesting about kidney cancer is it's one of the few cancers that is not
chemotherapy doesn't work
with chemotherapy or radiation.
That's interesting. Well, I just wonder why. I know that leukemia is like the most common one treated by chemotherapy, but it just seems that kidney cancer is like resistant against it. Wait, do you know any other cancers that are resistant against chemotherapy?
No. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about it is if you do have a reoccurrence of cancer, it almost always comes back as lung cancer.
Wow. Okay, so like if you get kidney cancer, it's gone and then it relapses. What do you mean it comes back as lung cancer? Because like it attaches to your lungs and stays dormant in there and then it comes back. Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know, but that's why I have to have the chest X-ray.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
Don't want that to happen.
I mean, a lot of parts of the kidney cancer is unknown. Like, for example, did you know that in kidney cancer it's actually slightly more common in African American males than white males?
I did.
For some, and scientists don't know why. It's like kidney cancer is still mysterious, even though we know about it, but we just don't know everything about it. Some parts are mysterious. Some parts are just, that's what makes cancers interesting. We can't just like figure out it completely.
Anything else?
So what about? Okay, so we talked about before and during. So how about a little bit about after?
Well, I had a tremendous amount of pain with it because the incision was so large and because they had damaged other areas.
Oh yes.
I had a tremendous amount of pain involved. And
that's probably typical.
After about 2 weeks, I developed a severe infection.
Oh yeah, I think you told me about that.
Of about 104, and I had a neighbor who was a nurse, and so I had her come over and look at the incision, and told her about the fever overnight, and she said I should contact the doctor immediately, which I did.
You should.
For me to come in immediately, and they did a procedure in the office, and then about 2 days later, I was in the hospital again. And I had 2 different types of bacterial infections that they had names about this
dangerous.
Long. I don't know what they were.
They were dangerous, huh?
But they were...
potentially lethal?
They were potentially serious.
Yeah.
And I had problems on and off with that from July until about the end of October. So...
Well, about in what year, though?
It was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So 2010.
2010. Oh, yeah, of course. That's when you first got in. Then
Right.
soon after you got the surgery, then you have to face another problem. That must have made you unhappy.
Well, the infection part of it was very frustrating because
You just thought you
I was
were
in and out of the hospital all the time.
Yeah.
It was the type thing that they were giving me massive doses of antibiotics orally when I was at home,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was in the hospital. I'd get IV antibiotics,
Oh, okay.
and it was just a very difficult infection to control. And they finally got a specialist who is a wound doctor. They actually
A wound
specialize
doctor?
in wounds that won't heal, either surgical wounds or
Whoa.
accidents, things
There-
like that.
Wow, there's actually a profession for that.
Absolutely, it's very
Wait, do you know what it's
specialized.
called? That's
They're
fine.
medical doctors, but I don't
They're
know.
just medical doctors that specialize in a specific field of
That is
medicine.
correct, and they have
So- He checked over it.
they deal with burn victims and
Oh,
things like
yeah.
that. But they had all kinds of magic substances that they would put into the wound. One of them was actually a square of material
Oh.
that was cow collagen in some form,
Oh, okay.
and they would pack the wound
Coagulants?
area with that.
So like it clots the blood, so
But
that bacteria
but-
can't get in.
2.5 months after the surgery, I still had people that would stick their hands all the way up to their wrist
Yeah.
into my side.
Really?
Yeah.
They would do that?
It was that deep and it wouldn't close up.
What do you mean? You let people do that?
Yep.
What happens when they took it out though? Like, wouldn't they be kind of like creeped out or something like?
They're doctors.
Oh, doctors! I thought you meant like your friends and family.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
This wasn't party tricks. These were doctors.
Oh, I thought they were your like friends. I'm all like, you let your friends do that? Wow.
No, not at all.
Of course not. So you've talked about before, after, during, and after your surgery. So one last word. Is there any last words you would like to say about this cancer?
No, other than I'm just glad that I had a bad stomach ache that let the doctors find it.
Yeah, most people just like dismiss it and just don't go to the doctor, and that usually causes them to have, then they have to face more severe consequences by not going there to the doctor when they should have. So is that all you have to say?
That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Tabor.
You're welcome.